listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast by Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb, Dr. Fredrick J. Long, Dr. Mario Melendez, Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and J. M. Smith. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello, everybody. This is Fred Long with Glossa House's Proof Text, and we're going to do another episode of GrammarPoint. And we're talking about nouns, and we're going to talk about vocatives. So vocatives are one of the noun cases, and Greek shows 5 cases of nouns. Remember, a case is a grammatical category that tells how the noun functions in the sentence. And these cases are recognizable by the endings. And so we've been looking at the nominative case, which is subject case, genitive case, a case of description, dative case, the case of indirect object, and some other things, and the accusative case. And so we're looking at the last case, which is called the kleitike ptosis, the vocative case. Now, the vocative case is a case of direct address. We're looking here at my Koine Greek grammar, where I give a summary of these cases here in this chapter. So it's a case of direct address. Now, a lot of times endings aren't learned for the vocative case because the vocative case has simple endings and is marked in the Greek text that we use by being set off by commas. So here we have an example, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Saul is a vocative. You can see that it's set off by a comma. Sometimes there'll be a comma before it. And this is telling you that you're looking at a vocative. It's the case of direct address, and they're always set off by commas. So let's talk a little bit more about vocatives and their use. And before we do that, we'll look at some of their endings. So in the singular endings, they often use the nominative endings, particularly in the plural. In the singular, this is also true. So here you can see a listing of their endings in the singular. So the one exception with the singular is that the vocative for the masculine, second declension, is in epsilon. So Kyrie is Lord. So Kyrie with the epsilon, that's a sign of a vocative ending. But remember, you're always going to see that comma there. For the neuter, it's going to be an ending that you've already know, own, for a second declension. So again, vocatives are a direct address. It's when an author calls out the audience that is listening to their discourse, to whom they're addressing. Now, what are some functions of the vocative? Like, why would an author somehow, for some reason, call out an audience that they're addressing? Well, it can signal a change of addressee. Who is the author talking about? Now, this is most notably seen when, for example, in Ephesians, Paul is addressing different group individuals of the group. So he'll talk about husbands, he'll call out children, he'll then talk to things, give commands to fathers, to servants, to masters. So each of these different sections is indicated by the use of the vocative. Also, a use of a vocative can serve as what's called provide thematic address. So by calling out the addressee by a certain word, you're construing how the author conceives them. So a lot of times, Paul and other writers will use words that suggest family relationship, like aldafe. Aldafe is calling out someone as a brother. So Paul in his letters will describe believers as brothers or siblings. And this, of course, describes an important understanding of believers as belonging to the family of God, as siblings, brothers and sisters to one another. Now, at sometimes he may construe the addressees in a way that draws out a problem or something that they're struggling with. In 2 Corinthians 6:11, Paul actually describes the believers as Corinthians, and in the context, he is just about to call them out for this civic pride that they have, or temptations, precisely because they're identifying themselves by the name of their city rather than by being believers and siblings of one another. So they're struggling with their civic identity becoming more important than their relationship and trust in God and Christ. And so right at this moment, as he's appealing to them and calling them to repent, he's calling them out by their ethnic identity, their city civic identity as Corinthians. And so pay attention to the themes that an author might be addressing by way of calling people out in the use of the vocative. These vocatives also can occur any place in the sentence. So when they occur in the sentence, they kind of form like a break. They serve to kind of pause the discourse. And in this sense, they kind of set off what follows as particularly important. So you can see the example of 1 Thessalonians 2:14 that I provide there. Also, they can serve to indicate a unit boundary. So if an author is switching gears, they might pause the discourse and call out the addressees in a way to help signal a discourse boundary. This is seen, for example, in Romans 12:1, where Paul calls out the addressees, and this is right at a transitional point in the book of Romans, where Romans 1 through 11 is treating a certain kind of set of themes and topics, and then chapter 12 is kind of starting to fill out some of the implications of those topics. And so we see a transition at 12:1. So they can also help to demarcate a unit boundary. Now, something that you can do with vocatives is that you can add an interjection, the word "o." And this "o" is heightening the emotion in the discourse. So when you see an "o" attached to the beginning, right in front of the vocative word, this is often indicating heightened emotion. Oftentimes it's negative. It doesn't always have to be negative, but often there's a sense of criticism or calling out in a negative way when that "o" is present. Well, yeah, I just wanted to draw your attention to the vocative. It is an oft neglected use, noun use. The endings aren't often learned because the forms are easily recognized by being set off by commas. However, the vocatives have an important function in the discourse in the ways that I've been describing. So I hope you found this episode of GrammarPoint helpful and look forward to having you listen to us next time. Take care.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.